to today's episode of Gaston Spotlight. I'm your host, Isiah Spencer, and I'm here today with our Gaston Rhinos' newest on-air play-by-play commentator, and also the voice of Gaston Honey Hunters, Brian Rushing. Hello, Brian. How are you doing today?
Isiah, fantastic. Thank you for having me in. It's a pleasure being here.
Thank you for coming in. So we're going to get straight into it, and we're going to talk about your getting involved with the Gaston Rhinos. How was that like for you?
It was a circumstance to where, being a Gaston County native, I had an opportunity to see this place literally grow significantly in the last few decades. My grandfather was a security guard here back in the 70s and early 80s, and I spent some time in my college days here on the campus, and as I'm wrapping up a degree coming up next May, I'm excited to be a part of this new thing with the athletics department and with the play-by-play coverage that'll be happening throughout the season.
So as for you, how was it like going to college and getting your degree?
Well, it's the one thing that hasn't quite been finished yet. I did spend some time here, of course, working at Gaston College for my degree. I spent a little bit of time at Belmont Abbey College trying to wrap that up, but I'm close to the finish line here, and I'm excited to be able to say that I'll be graduating with my daughter in another field of study is what she's going to be covering, and we're going to both graduate in May.
Well, I would like to say congratulations to you for getting ready to graduate.
Thank you. It's been a long, long road.
What was it like being a part of the Honey Hunters inaugural season?
It was a lot of fun. The Gastonia Honey Hunters being the first professional baseball team in Gastonia since 1992. You know, I had a chance to watch that team play its final year in town, and to be honest with you, I didn't know that we would ever get professional baseball back. So when the opportunity came along for an opportunity to be the public address announcer in Gastonia, I auditioned for the part and ultimately landed the gig in the best way that I could possibly, doing it on a part-time basis. And then over the off season, they made a call out to me around Christmas time, and we were able to get together, and I'm really, really excited to be a part of what's happening in Gastonia with the Honey Hunters.
So I heard that you just said you were a public address announcer, or address announcer, and it says you're a broadcast announcer. How did you manage to get that job?
Well, it just kind of worked itself out to where at the home games, you're going to be dealing with a different crowd than when you're going to be on the road. My impact as a public address announcer is pretty well known in the area, so they definitely wanted me to remain as the public address announcer. I am tasked with hiring staff for the play-by-play coverage, but when we're on the road, I join the team and I bring the games on WGNC AM 1450.
Sounds really fun. So is that really like a lot to enjoy when you're on the road with the team?
Well, it's a lot to take in. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of activity that goes on during the course of the day that has nothing to do with an actual broadcast itself. Statistics gathering, making sure that media relations is covered. It's a lot to do, but for a baseball guy like myself, it's a ton of fun.
Brian, you have been doing commentary for ball games for many years. What made you want to be an announcer?
Well, it was actually a couple of failed projects prior to that. I never was gifted enough to be a professional athlete. Tried my hand at coaching to some degree and realized that coaching just simply wasn't going to do it either. I'd spent my entire life involved in athletics and had been told by folks that I had a voice for it, and certainly I have the knowledge for it, I believe. And so therefore, I said, okay, this is worth taking a shot. So I started, grew a little bit, took some chances, bet on myself somewhat, and the payoff is really starting to happen here over the last couple of years.
So as of you taking those chances, did it end up like going well, or was there times where it didn't end well and just things you had to push through? Well,
I mean, of course, with any endeavor that's worth pursuing, there were some moments that were, you know, some bare spots, some cloudy days in the process, but eventually I was able to gather a rhythm, both from the public address standpoint as well as the broadcast side of things, to where my reputation began to precede me. And from that point, when you call on someone and they find out about you, that call goes a lot easier in that regard. So I was able to really grab hold of some very solid clients and really get my feet wet with a lot of repetitions. And those repetitions have certainly paid off. It gives me the opportunity to go pretty much anywhere in the two Carolinas, into Virginia, even Georgia, and pretty much do anything that they need of me on a variety of levels.
So you were just all in at all times?
All in, worked a day job, but I spent a lot of time that was other people's free time. I would be spending it continually grinding away at this, trying to be as good as I possibly could at it.
Okay, so you as being a broadcasting announcer and doing many sports for broadcasting, obviously, what would be your favorite sport that you commentate?
Obviously baseball has a special place in my heart. There's no question that that's the place that I have the greatest level of depth. But baseball can tarry a little bit. You can be caught in some 4-hour games and you're like, okay, this is not a best case scenario from a broadcast standpoint. But basketball encapsulates itself in 2-hour segments. It's really entertaining. It's really enjoyable. And then there's men's lacrosse, which is such a sneaky good sport. You've got all the physicality of football, you've got the speed of hockey, you've got the hand-eye coordination of baseball, and sort of the strategery of basketball. It's a phenomenal sport to engage in. I wish that there was more of it in this part of the country.
So with all the sports you just named, which one would probably be the hardest to commentate out of basketball? I'm going to give you 3 options: out of basketball, baseball, and we'll say lacrosse.
Well, the most difficult is going to be lacrosse, just because of the fact that not as many people are playing it in this part of the country. In Charlotte, North Carolina area, it's basketball country. There's no question about it. With baseball, I grew up around it my entire life, so I can pretty much do that blindfolded. Lacrosse is something that I had to acquire the taste for and had to acquire the chops for. And now that I've done so, I'm really grateful to be a part of it. It was some of the most fun that I've had in broadcasting games.
So did you ever come across playing lacrosse when you were young or when you got older?
Not a shot.
No.
I was never able to play it. I appreciated those guys that were. This wasn't even brought about until my time at Belmont Abbey College, when they said, guess what? You're doing play-by-play for lacrosse. And so I immediately immersed myself into it, spent a lot of time, a lot of hours. Chris Barrett is the lacrosse coach at Belmont Abbey College, really took a lot of time, being gracious with his time and energy to kind of share with me some things. And then I just got hooked. And it was helpful that Belmont Abbey was a national level Division II lacrosse team at that time, and so therefore it was very easy to see a high level of lacrosse being played, and just wrapping myself into that was just a phenomenal experience.
Is there a big difference from going from a low level sport to a high level sport like you were just talking about at Belmont Abbey lacrosse?
Well, I mean, not really from my perspective. I mean, here's the way I see it. And people are going to gather this when they start to tune in to our Gaston College Rhinos games throughout the year when it comes to me broadcasting them. I'm not concerned with whether it is junior college athletics or whether it's the major leagues. Those people that are spending their time and energy trying to hone their craft on a court or a field are worthy of my best preparation and my best call day in and day out. It doesn't matter whether they're wearing an Atlanta Braves jersey, a Carolina Panthers jersey, or a Gaston College jersey. They're bringing it daily. I'm going to make sure that I'm bringing it daily.
So you're saying everybody is equal no matter what they do or how they do it?
Everybody is worthy of my best effort. That is the one thing that I can absolutely control. I cannot control that the baseball team may or may not have a #1 draft pick. I cannot control that the basketball team may or may not win a national title. I can control that I bring it every night on the broadcast.
Bring it every day. So as you bring it every night, how do you prepare for going into a live game?
Well, I mean, obviously stats are important, but I come from a different school of thought. I'm more of a storyteller. Yes, it is good to know when our starting point guard averages 17 points a game and gets 6 assists, but I want to know about his time in high school. I want to know about his basketball coaches that have helped bring him along. If I can gather some of that secondary and tertiary information, it makes the broadcast more enjoyable. It lets folks know that I've done my homework, and mom and dad are going to be thrilled to know that somebody took enough time to care about their kid when they were playing in middle school, in high school, And from that, you really galvanize a community around a team. Those storytelling elements make all the difference in that regard.
And how is it like to, have you ever got comments from parents to, bring it out that you took time to get stats from their kids?
The relational aspect with parents at the college game is such an amazing lifeblood for community. It's more than comments, it's more than emails, it's literal parents bringing food up to the press box saying, we just heard that you were a big fan of pulled pork barbecue. Well, here you go. And now there's enough food on the table for the entire crew. I guarantee you all the guys behind these cameras, they're going to be all about that. I know I'm about that. Talking about a baseball team to where I like peanut M&Ms, and now all of a sudden every game there's a bag of peanut M&Ms waiting on me. When you're able to create that sort of community in the course of a broadcast and galvanize numbers of people around one sport, that's exactly why you participate to begin with.
So it sounds pretty cool. So on an estimate, how many games do you think you have under your belt?
If you include public address, announcing, and broadcast, you're looking at now somewhere around 4,000 games, from everything from Little League to professional soccer, professional baseball. It's been a long career. It's been a lot of miles covered, but it has been so incredibly rewarding. And I'm so grateful to get the opportunity to show folks what Gaston College has to offer in their athletics department.
So on an average of those 4,000 games, how many would you do a year?
Well, I mean, there would be some that you would cover, you're doing a triple header on a Saturday, you'd be covering 12, 15 games in a week. During the college season, you're going to easily do 250 for an individual school just because of the breadth of games that there are to do. Then you look at public address. I can't count fully the number of games that I've done public address for. It's just, it's vast. But if you include the two, you're looking at, 18, 20 years of work over the course of my time, and roughly 4,000 games in total. So that balances itself out to somewhere around $250 a year.
So you said you've been working for about 18 to 20 years in this broadcasting field. So it says on here that you've worked for ESPN. How was that like?
ESPN Plus was a great circumstance. I've had a chance to work at places like USC Upstate, Longwood University, even had a chance to briefly work some at Wake Forest. And certainly when you get into those Power 5 schools, the ESPN Plus broadcast just has a different feel to it. Whether it's a volleyball match or a basketball game, it just has a different feel. It has a different atmosphere. Then you go to a place like Longwood or USC Upstate, and it becomes an incredibly meaningful thing to have those small schools represented and being able to tell their stories. It's amazing.
Guys, I want to thank you for all your time today. I'm your host, Isiah Spencer, at the Gaston Spotlight. I want to give a big thanks to Brian Rushing over here for just coming and having an interview with us. And want to thank all of you for tuning in and just watching our interview. That'll be all for today's Gaston Spotlight. See you later.